extract information, how to know information. Basically, I did the standard facts of who, what, when, where, why, how many, and sometimes how much. But we did all that learning, and we did this in space as well. However, my part, I learned after being on Earth and that I had abilities was psychologically, was to learn ESP, telekinesis, certain things that we can do. And I thought everybody had these skills. So this is what we're learning in the Allied Command. But we all didn't know who each other was. And there's various levels in the psyche and the soul and the essence. And we are trying to find out how many people have a blank slate versus how many have memories of past life or are chosen by extraterrestrials. And so basically in the videos and the YouTubes you'll see around cyberspace and the digital community, you're going to hear a lot of talk about aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, and you're going to hear about factions, good, bad, and different. And you're going to hear about those that are on the warring nations and those that aren't, those that want peace. And in the religions, you'll hear the light souls and the dark souls, and depending on who you have, and we've had a lot of people talking about that. So we have a military, we have an intelligence community, and they're not necessarily the same thing. So in command off planet, I met beings that said they found us here. 28 to so many billion years ago. It's over 28 million that I can recall. And they do know, as far as I know, in some of my lives, this is not my first time. So I'm considered, in the word that they taught me, ascension, which I didn't know when I first learned it, and with the magic of the, I guess one might say brand, I guess to keep me doing what I'm doing here, it's a pyramid with energy coming off of it. It's like connecting the pyramids again. We had digital grids and energy, or 0-point energy, if you will, or ways to make energy. And I believe that we're going to redo that again. I strongly suggest that through the millions and if not billions of years throughout the universe, not saying necessarily the solar system, but definitely in various realities, that we are learning now with quantum mechanics, quantum physics, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku, people like that, they're big names in television, that they are starting to suggest that, yes, there is something else out there, and there are other dimensions and other universes. So we'll see how that goes. But Janet, what would you like to know? Should I need to go to you and let you talk about whatever you want to talk about to be part of this live show?
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, there's a lot of directions we can take this, but it's the secret military. You know, you have your active things. Like Ken had his in the background. He wasn't aware. We have our military or our government, whoever they are, they do what's called memory wipes. But what happens is the memories don't stay down. You start getting bleed-throughs. You start remembering things. And what I did is I did a lot of hypnosis regression. I had some conscious memories. I couldn't tell anybody. There was no safe place to tell growing up. But what we're focused on right now today, besides being an experiencer, which is very important, being an experiencer, is our involvement with the military. And I think that's one of the critical keys. Can we get these pieces of our memory? Because the military does a lot of things where they have tactics to keep the information secret. Besides the memory wipes, I'm not sure how it works. I've had exposure to both the extraterrestrials and the military. I'm not sure what parts have been wiped out and what I do remember, what's left to remember. But the Greys, when they put me back in bed, they sprayed one time. It was like a spray or a sound. I'm not sure what was going on. A misting, and that was supposed to mind wipe me, and it didn't work. And so this one time I was very angry that I didn't get my mind wiped because I had to go to work, and then I had to deal with the energy of having been abducted, and then I have to go, like, put on a different hat and go to work and pretend that everything's normal, right? So So I wanted to talk to all of us how we've been able to balance the information we know, the information that's in our subconscious, and it affects us on a core level, and what happens when we have memories coming forth. What do you do about it? When I have a memory, I have what I'll call a screen memory, and I have ongoing contact with extraterrestrials. I don't know if the both of you are having ongoing contact, but I believe I'm going to my other existence. I think we have simultaneous lives, because I'll come back and I'll explain to my husband, well, I spent all last night and I had this other job I was doing, or I'm an ambassador on a could somebody mute, because I'm getting a lot of feedback. Mute when you're not talking. Yeah, and so I'm going to other planets. I'm working other jobs. I'm an ambassador on other worlds. One of the projects I'm involved with that I'm aware of, and I married my therapist, so I married Dr. Lessin, we talked about earlier. He's my husband, so I can get up and he'll come and listen to me. But, you don't have to be to a therapist. If you have somebody that will listen to you about your dreams and help you analyze and deconstruct it, or you can get yourself a journal, or, just put your phone on record and then listen to it later. You'll get some more insights. So in my reflection that I have, I've uncovered more and more of the mystery, and I'm in these programs where one of the programs we're involved in relocating homeless people to another planet where they're given, they have these beautiful homes that have been abandoned, and they're being given these homes and all the materials, whatever they need. Food is free. They can bring their animals. I see a lot of cows and sheep and chickens and pigs, a lot of livestock, and it's like, here you go. Reinvent the world, and we're here to support you. So that's one of the projects that I'm involved with. But there's many, many others. I'm in council meetings. Some of them are small with just maybe half dozen to a dozen people, and some are large with over 100,000 people. So I'm going to ask both of you, what do you consciously remember? What are some of your bleed-through memories? Like sometimes I woke up one morning and there was an owl, a 6-foot owl standing beside my bed, and it was full. The sun was up. It was not dark. It wasn't dawn. It was like right after dawn, full sunlight, and I'm going, oh my God, there's an owl. I wasn't afraid, and I just said, oh really? And as soon as I said, oh really, to the owl, and this is all telepathic, the owl shape-shifted into a gray. And then we had a dialogue. So on what level is this happening for you as an experiencer, as a person that's been involved in the secret military? And I'm not going to go into mine. I was on Johnson Atoll. That was my labs. I probably have others, but that was the big one that they made me remember. They did not, erase that memory. And that was like, okay, it's time now. I'm allowed to talk about this. Because if they don't want you to talk about it, you're not going to remember it. They're going to erase it, or they'll re-erase it. So back to, I guess, Ken next. We heard TJ for a while. Ken, what do you remember? What's subconscious that has come forth? You have your overt secret space, your overt military NASA thing, which was your front program, and then you have the back end story where you were on Mars and all kinds of stuff. So tell us a little bit about how did you integrate your mind wipe with what's going on now in your life?
Okay. One thing I want to add real fast on what you mentioned it. Interesting enough that NASA had me on a program called Solar System Ambassadors. And it's very interesting that I got chosen for that, because that actually was one of my responsibilities and duties in the past life activity that I had. Now, your question was, please refresh me now. I'm going to tell listeners, be careful. Let me throw this in real fast. Don't go trying to text and use computers while you're driving. This young lady was doing that came in and rear-ended me just a year ago, and has caused me every once in a while when I'm talking, I'll have a dropout and I'll freeze up, ask them, I just asked Janet, okay, what was the question? And then you can hit that, and then I can pick it back up and go again. But it's a real frustration whenever you're having to overcome situations like that, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So forgive me if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about for a moment. It gives me a moment to pause, and then I'll pick back up, and we'll go from there. Now, what was the question again, Janet?
Okay, so I wanted you to tell us about, like, there's memories that are wiped and then they bleed through.
Okay.
I call them screen
Right.
memories. Do you have any memories that bled through that made you go, aha, there's more to this than that? And then you investigated that through hypnosis or meditation. Yeah, so that type of thing.
Right.
And I'm going to go on mute so I don't make noise.
Yeah. It's interesting because those are the situations that happened in my life, even when I was very, very young, in the second grade. I'm going to go back that far. That in a little town called Hart, H-A-R-T, Texas, 560 people in that area, farmers and everything else, and it wasn't even much of a town. 2 grocery stores, and that was about it, and granaries. Anyway, we had a neighbor called the stepdad that I had, T.C. Ray, and said, "Did you guys see that lightning strike that hit just real close to where you live?" And our closest neighbor was 1.5 miles away, by the way. So my 2 brothers and I, we put on our rubber boots and we got dressed and we went across the dirt road. That's all we had out in the country, and over into the field. And it was an area of about at least 50 feet in diameter of the grain field was absolutely just flattened out. And now, being the youngest one of 3 brothers, the older boy, AR, he's not going to try to. He knows he could outrun either one of us other 2, and it would be not very sophisticated for him to do that. So he's coming along. Jimmy, he's no big deal, but I had to prove that I was faster than them, so I outran both of them to this area and saw this circle. And on the far side of this flattened circle, crop circle, if you want to call it that now, was this big whooping crane. It was a bird, and interesting that Janet was talking about her owl. In this case, was about a 4-foot tall whooping crane. They're almost totally extinct right now, but it was standing on the far side of this flattened out area. It turns its head, it looks at me, turns its head back the other direction, takes about 3 or 4 steps, opens its wings, and looks like it sort of jumps there and goes poof. It disappeared. Now, when AR and Jimmy got over, I asked them, "Did you see that bird? Did you see the bird?" And they asked, "No, I didn't see anything." Well, interesting enough, later on in my life, I started, not much later, I think it was continuously there, I would start having dreams in which we would have craft would come by and land and stop and pick up one of my friends, go and spend the night or the weekend with them during school in the 3rd grade. And Dick Clark, that was his name. I remember that. He and I were out in the field, way out in the distance, where there's a little pond, and we were out there, and it's getting close to sundown, and we were watching the moon was visible like it is right now today from a full moon last night. At any rate, there was a craft or something. It looked like it was coming from the area of the moon and headed down over towards the horizon of the earth. And about the same time, it was getting sundown. We didn't get back into the house until about 30 minutes after sundown. And of course, we got our fannies almost busted for not coming in when dinner was ready. But those are types of experiences that have hit me in my life of being chosen or picked, or whatever term they want to use. And I think it's all a part of going all the way back to my dad and the Eisenhower and the direct contact with extraterrestrials. And I think extraterrestrials like to keep it within families, and quite often it's very common for us to find that more than just one person in a family may wind up that over the generations that selected by extraterrestrials, like he has it in his book. So that's what I found myself in those type of experiences. Then as I started, I would have dreams of things that went on, especially on Mars. And one of the things I remember very much, this was way before we ever landed a spacecraft on Mars, in the